Hey everyone, I'm Drew and I'm a volunteer at See Me Proud. And I'm joined today by Zai, also from See Me Proud. Hey Zai.
Hey Drew, nice to see you.
Yeah, it's really good to see you. Thanks for joining in with us. So, the reason we're doing this is it's LGBT History Month Scotland. And the theme this year is Unsung. And the way we are looking at that is unsung heroes, the people that do things for the greater good of others, and people who make change and make a difference. So I was all ready to do a post on our social media about one of my unsung heroes, Stormy DeLavey, and their impact at Stonewall. When I was looking on our Twitter feed, and I came across a tweet from Rainbow Glasgow and I spotted a familiar face, and it was Zai. And from that, I discovered that Zai was one of the co founders of Rainbow Glasgow, and it sent me on a little bit of a Twitter trawl, finding out that 'cause that's something I did not know. So I'm going to hand over to you, Zai. Could you tell us who are Rainbow Glasgows?
Well, the Rainbow Glass Gurus is an LGBTQI plus basketball group based in Glasgow. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, we met weekly, like on Thursdays, 7 p.m. to half 8 at the City of Glasgow College, and we just basically play basketball together.
Awesome. So, can you tell us or share with us why you decided to co found Rainbow Glasgows?
Okay. Well, there's a bit of a story here. So I came back to Glasgow in 2018, but I grew up in the Philippines, which is a basketball crazy country. So that meant I grew up around basketball, have loved it since I was a kid. In fact, kind of related to that tweet that you saw on the Glasgow Roos page, I had my own tweet and I actually said that basketball was my first love because it was. But unfortunately, due to the quite gendered view of the sport, there weren't a lot of opportunities for me to pursue it when I was growing up. It was difficult to find other girls who were interested in playing basketball for fun. And then I didn't feel totally welcome to play with boys. So I just ended up playing basketball on my own as a kid. I just dribble and shoot on my own, and then I just watch it on TV. During my teenage years, it was cool when there was a women's basketball varsity team in my high school. But unfortunately, I got ill around that time. So I wasn't able to again pursue basketball due to health problems. And it wasn't until my mid 20s that I was physically well enough to actually pursue like playing team basketball and not just shoot and dribble by myself. So when I first came to Glasgow, I was like so excited when I saw that the uni had a women's basketball team. I mean, because I thought the Scotland football, I didn't think people knew what basketball was. So anyway, I joined the club and I managed to be selected as part of the women's basketball second team, which was really awesome. But then since I had limited experience playing competitive basketball, I felt like I didn't totally fit in with the club. Also because they were way fitter and had more experience playing basketball competitively than I did. Um, and at the same time, being queer, but I wasn't out then, that made me feel a bit uncomfortable because I was worried that, like the cis straight girls on the team might feel uncomfortable around me if, they found out I was queer or something like that. Um, so yeah, but anyway, I still love playing actual team basketball. And, that experience of playing with the university women's team, it was just like so fun for me that since then I was craving to play team basketball. So I've always dreamt of finding like a more comfortable space to play basketball in. Like a fun, accepting, encouraging space where, everyone can feel welcome regardless of sex, gender, identity, sexual orientation, fitness level, or even basketball experience. So yeah, flash forward to 2018, find myself back in Glasgow, and I found out there's an LGBTQ plus basketball team in Edinburgh. And because I love basketball so much, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to go to Edinburgh just to play basketball. But that wouldn't be sustainable for me to like regularly go to Edinburgh, like maybe like once a week or something just to play basketball. So then I thought, well, you know what? Why not have one in Glasgow? And then I guess fortuitously, I found out about Leap Sports when I was attending Pride House in Glasgow. So Leap Sports promotes LGBTI participation in sports. So they support the development of LGBTI sports clubs. So, me being eager me, I told them, hey, I want to set up an LGBT plus basketball group in Glasgow because there's one in Edinburgh, but I can't travel there all the time. So that was actually how I met Angie and Bill. Like I met them through Leap Sports. Found out that they were also interested in basketball, and that's just sort of the three of us got together, and eventually the Rainbow Glasgows was formed.
It's really inspiring that you just took charge. And I spotted this on one of your other tweets about it, and it was that quote, create the things you wish existed. And that's something you did, and that's very powerful that has helped other people, which is just really awesome. So the tweet I spotted, it was the 2-year anniversary of Rainbow Glasgows. Obviously, the last year has been a bit of a wipeout, as we all know. But for that year, when the group was active, could you tell us about the general vibe of a Rainbow Glasgows session?
I'd say generally just relaxed and fun. I mean, one of the core things that my co-founders and I agreed on when we started the group was we wanted it to be accessible. So we welcome anyone interested in basketball, regardless of gender identity, ethnicity, sexual orientation, skill, or fitness level. So yeah, that's why I describe it as just relaxed and fun. Like, even though we are developing our skills as a basketball team, we've always wanted to maintain that atmosphere of just being a group of friends, really playing together and having fun together. People can engage as much or as little as they want. There's no pressure to run or dive after the ball unless you want to, of course. And for me personally, that's really important because as I mentioned, my experience when I was playing with the women's second team, like although I had fun, there was that sense of feeling a bit uncomfortable because as much as I love the sport, I knew I wasn't at the same fitness level as everyone else, and I didn't want anyone to feel that way or to stop I didn't want that to stop anyone from just having fun or playing or trying the sport out.
It's again, it's just such an inspiring thing to have done, and it's so important that there are kind of queer spaces, like queer dry spaces as well, where people can go, and also the sport element as well. That's not only looking after kind of like physical health, but mental health as well. And it's really important to have queer, safe spaces, welcoming spaces that aren't judging on sporting ability either. So it just sounds like a really cool project. So taking that step and starting that group, as we spoke about the kind of quote you quoted about creating the things that you wish existed. Being one of the co-founders of that group, could you give any advice to someone else out there who's thinking they identify something that they love, that there's not a place where they can go? How does someone start something like that, a group that's needed?
Well, as cliche as it might sound, I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, like don't give up your passion and share your passion with others. I mean, 'cause for me, that's what drove it all. My passion for basketball, wanted to find a safe space. And so in line with that, when you're talking about sharing your passion with others, I think it's important to connect and reach out to people. I feel like I got pretty lucky because, as I said, I'm interested in sports. I'm queer. So that's why I found myself going to Pride House. And I ended up meeting like-minded people in terms of people who were also interested in basketball. And I suppose that's another thing, like finding like-minded people, because it is easier to accomplish things as a collective. Like, for example, I think that's why we create community groups. Like we have See Me Proud, because it's easier to get things done when you have support, when you're not just by yourself. And I think that brings me to then look for support, because it is out there. In general, I think we're quite lucky being in Glasgow because there's a lot of free events and community groups that are open to the public. I mean, obviously, especially pre-COVID, right? So kind of seek out those opportunities and make use of them. And then I think I'd just like to maybe emphasize that once you've then started the group, I think it's important to make sure that you keep the environment safe, accepting, encouraging, and respectful for everyone. Because, I mean, as I said, for me and my co-founders, that is one of the really important things for us, that the Rainbow Glasgows remain a conducive space to for people to explore and develop their passions and skills.
And going back to what you said there, you said the word connections, and I think that's something that's really been put at the forefront of our minds this past year, especially. So, thinking back to when Rainbow Glasgow started and kind of people meeting each other, the kind of social media that you have as well, have you kind of personally seen or experienced kind of like friendships and support networks developing through the group and people coming together?
Definitely. I mean, for me personally, I can say that it's expanded my friendship and support network. And, you mentioned earlier about like, not just the physical fitness, but also, doing sport and stuff is like good for mental health. And I can say that, playing with the Glasgows, that's really helped me, not just in terms of developing my physical fitness and skills in basketball, but just feeling good, because one of the most rewarding things that I've actually found in being with the Rainbow Glasgows is meeting other LGBT plus people who've had similar experiences of, like feeling uncomfortable in team sports settings, or others who've given up on sports and fitness because of the stigma that unfortunately still exists for LGBT plus people in sport. And so to hear other people, like people I've never met before, share that they've found themselves interested in sports again, or that they've become motivated to get fit because they found themselves enjoying playing basketball with us in the Rainbow Glasgows. I've found that to be really moving. And, like me being the basketball nerd I am as well, I've just found it to be really cool to see other people develop their basketball skills, especially those who've never even played it before. Because as I said, the group is open to everyone, regardless of fitness level or experience. So we have people actually joining us who've never even heard of basketball before. So it's so rewarding for me when someone then says that, or when I see them enjoying the sport, appreciating the sport just because I love the sport so much. I don't know. It's so gratifying. And I think that's why I said, share your passion with others. So for me, that it's just been awesome to be able to share my passion for basketball with other people and then develop friendship and networks through that.
Looking ahead, and as we slowly start to see a bit of light at the end of this lockdown tunnel, what are your hopes going forward for Rainbow Glasgows?
Well, definitely that we continue to grow and progress as a group. We started out with just 4 members at our first session. 3 of those would be the 3 co-founders, myself, Angie, and Bill. And then our first member, Andrew. You'll see us in that Twitter photo. And so just with those 4 people, and since it was just us, we just our sessions were just basically every week we would each like bring in a drill to teach or have the other person try. So that's what we did. But eventually we had volunteer student coaches who started working with us. And that's courtesy of the City of Glasgow College, who actually also allow us to use their basketball court for free. And that's one of the things as well that makes the group accessible is it's free. like when you come play with the Glasgow Roos, you don't have to pay for anything, and we get to use like a really nice and cool court. So thanks to the City of Glasgow College for that. So yeah, so actually before the lockdown, we were from 4 people, we started averaging at least 10 members per session. And then we would get like new people coming in every week, because what would happen is, like someone who had come to a session would then tell a friend about it and bring that friend along, and then the friend would enjoy it, and then next time that friend would tell someone else and bring another friend along. So that's how we started growing, and so much so that we started playing like friendly matches with the City of Glasgow College women's team. And one of the things that we were moving towards was to set up friendly games with other basketball groups, like LGBT basketball groups, like the one in Edinburgh. But yeah, unfortunately, that's come to a halt because of the pandemic. So I hope we continue to grow in that sense. And I think my new personal wish, since I already got my first one with the creation of the Rainbow Glasgows, is for the Glasgows to go to the Gay Olympics. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with the Gay
Yeah.
Olympics? So Bill, one of our co-founders, would actually represent Scotland at the Gay Olympics. And so he was the one that told us about that. And so that's my new personal goal for the Rainbow Glasgows, to one day represent Scotland and play basketball for Scotland at the Gay Olympics.
That would be awesome. I love that idea. And just, yeah, like, thank you, Zai, for sharing this. And thank you for being one of my unsung heroes. I think it's amazing that you took the initiative with some others, and you did create the thing that you wish existed that has helped other people. It's smashing stigma, creating a safe kind of queer space where people aren't told what they can or can't do. They're welcome to kind of come along. It's smashing self stigma as well for a lot of people who think they maybe can't do something, but there is a safe, friendly environment where they can come along and kind of try it and get together and be with people who maybe understand them. And yeah, it's just such an awesome, awesome thing. Rainbow Glasgows are awesome. So thank you so much, Sai.
Well, thanks as well, Drew. I'm honored to be one of your unsung heroes. It feels weird, but I am honored.
I'm going to like knit you like a little rainbow cape to
Love,
wear.
love a rainbow cape. I love rainbows, so
Or like a little mask and a little rainbow cape. That would be awesome. But yeah, so yeah, thank you for sharing that about Rainbow Glasgow Rose. So on the subject of unsung heroes, I can you tell us about your heroes?
so like the crystal gems. Do you know the crystal gems?
I don't know.
So they're from Steven Universe, which is a really, really awesome show. I highly recommend it. So
No.
anyway, the Crystal Gems, they're like a group of heroes. And I bring them up because my unsung LGBT plus hero is actually a group of people. It is the LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group of the Psychological Association of the Philippines.
Ah, okay. Can you tell us a bit about your history with them, when you first met them, and any particular people involved?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever told this story to anyone actually, and it's pretty cool, I think, to finally get to share it. But yeah, so I guess a bit of a background. So it's a handful to say, LGBT Psychology Special Interest Group. So, but we normally kind of shorthand it as SIG, Special Interest Group. So I'll just say that from now on.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so the SIG is actually the first official collective of psychologists and allied professionals in Southeast Asia working for LGBT plus rights and well-being. It was officially established in 2014, which was around the time I returned to the Philippines after completing my master's degree in psychology at the University of Glasgow. I was really lucky because, even though I knew I was queer since I was 3 or something, I had only come out to my family right before I came back to Manila in 2014. And I actually credit a lot of that to a friend who I did the master's with in Glasgow. I fondly refer to this person as my first friend.
Mhm.
And she's actually still in Glasgow. She's another one of my unsung heroes. That can be a story for another time.
Mhm.
But going back to the SIG, I consider the SIG as my unsung hero because joining the group in 2014 catalyzed, my academic and social involvement with the LGBT plus community. As I said, I had only come out, and so I still wasn't fully comfortable or even confident about my LGBT plus identity. And the SIG was instrumental in building that up. I think I can say that I might not be where I am right now, both professionally and personally, had I not encountered the SIG. Because apart from being new to the LGBT plus community, I was also new to psychology. And because the SIG practically established LGBT psychology in the Philippines, they allowed me to find a home within psychology. I found the area of research that I'd be passionate about. My first academic publication was in LGBT psychology. And right now, I am back in Glasgow pursuing a PhD in psychology, focusing on LGBT plus people. So, that was very formative for me professionally. On a more personal level, again, like, the SIG were basically my first set of queer friends in the Philippines. I attended my first Pride with them. Um, the group was my first queer family, where I felt safe and comfortable enough to continue exploring my LGBT plus identity. And being part of the group gave me the confidence to become more involved in the LGBT plus community. And I refer to them as my awesome fab family. And I can say that in a way, they paved the way for me to find other queer families, like my See Me Proud family and my LGBT health and well-being family, because I felt such a difference being with the SIG, like that experience of being in a safe, affirming queer space that kind of opened up that comfort and possibility of, hey, it's good to be in LGBT plus groups.
It's that whole chosen family thing and smashing self stigma by feeling part of something and feeling not alone. So we know there are so many unsung heroes out there in our queer community if we just look for them and acknowledge them. Have you told your unsung heroes who we've just been talking about what they mean to you?
Well, I'm telling them right now, and I
Yeah.
actually have you to thank for that, Drew, because when you had come up with the idea to talk about our unsung heroes, I thought about Eric Manalastas, who is actually the founding coordinator of the SIG. Eric was actually the first person I met from the SIG when I came back to the Philippines. Someone told me about the group when I had come back in 2014, and then I just decided to send Eric an email, and I think he actually replied immediately. We set a meeting, and the rest was kind of history. Eric was so friendly when we first met. It made me feel less intimidated, as the new queer person in Manila. And I'm especially mentioning Eric here as part of the SIG because I personally consider him as one of my LGBT plus role models and academic mentors. And I feel really, really fortunate to call him a friend. Um, in fact, I kind of want to link a little bit my experience with Eric with how the Glasgow Ruse was formed. Because I remember that one of the things that Eric told me in one of our conversations was something about creating the things you wish existed and being the person you needed as an LGBT plus kid growing up.
Yeah.
And that just always stuck with me. That inspired me to create the things I wish existed, like the Glasgows. And I remember at one of the SIG workshops that Eric invited me to, I did say to everyone then that I wish I can contribute to LGBT psychology in the Philippines the way he has, even if just a tiny bit. And I think that's also been really formative in terms of developing my advocacy. The bit about being the person you wish you had or knew as a kid. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to be a See Me Proud LGBT community champion. It's one of the reasons I had the courage to put myself forward as one of the University of Glasgow future world changers that focuses on LGBT plus inclusion. It's why I'm doing PhD research on creating safe and inclusive spaces for LGBT plus in higher education, because these were the things that I wished existed when I was a kid. I wish I had LGBT plus role models like Eric when I was growing up.
Definitely, that's something that's so important. That thing about be the person you needed when you were growing up. I think we could all kind of keep that in mind going forward. So, thanks so much for talking to me, Zai, about Unsung Heroes. I've really enjoyed hearing about Rainbow Glasgows and about the SIG, and Eric, who sounds awesome and such a deserving title holder of Unsung Hero. I think, how do we end this? Do we do a little jingle? Do we? Let's go for, okay, let's do a joint See Me Proud. You say see, I'll say me, and we'll both shout proud. We
Cool.
got it? So three,
The C. Wait, do I
you,
say?
you do see.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to do me,
Okay. And then proud.
and then we're both
Okay.
going to do proud. After three, one, two, three,
C.
me,
Proud.
proud. Thanks, Si. I'll catch up with you soon.
All right.
Take care.